Hi, it's Brian. Welcome to the Awards Contender. And it's time to give our final thoughts on the 96 Academy Awards. I had to bring Cody Dericks back one more time to talk about the ceremony. How are we doing, Cody?
Had to bring me back. Yes, the curse will soon be lifted. Don't worry.
Cody, we've recorded like 8 videos together since the Oscar nominations came out in January. And for a while, it seemed like the Oscar ceremony was never going to happen, and it finally did. Like, what did we think of the show overall?
The show itself, I thought was fine. I think the intro was a little long. I'm not crazy about Kimmel as a host, but I don't really feel strongly in either direction, and I don't really ever care about who's hosting these shows as long as they don't bomb. They're just there to keep things moving. But I thought the show overall was pretty good. The presentation of the actor categories was pretty fantastic. I will always prefer clips in general, but if we're not going to do clips, I like this presentation. The performances were pretty great. Obviously, there's one that was exceptional, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I had a pretty good time watching it. And the winners weren't too bad either.
Yeah, so let's get into the category everybody's talking about, Cody. Best Actress. What did we think about Emma Stone winning over Lily Gladstone at the end of the day?
I want to kind of bounce it back to you as one of the few people who I saw predict this correctly, because even though this was clearly a tight race, I would say 90% of the pundits and people whose voices and opinions I trust were going with Gladstone. I think because of SAG, the narrative, something to reward that movie. Emma Stone already has one. But at the end of the day, we were wrong. Most of us. Not all of us. Let me hear your thoughts.
Well, I mean, till the end, I thought Gladstone could do it, but I stayed with Emma Stone. I mean, honestly, more for personal reasons. I just loved her performance in that movie. And I felt like this would be an all-timer Best Actress win, and she only really lost at SAG. And we have had examples in recent years where the Best Actress winner at SAG did not go on to win the Oscar. And I mean, what kind of tipped it over for me was Killers of the Flower Moon. I just felt wasn't a strong enough contender as a movie all award season. Like if Scorsese had won a couple things, if the movie was winning in some technical categories, I would have felt better about Gladstone, but I didn't see it in the end. And so I stuck to my guns with Stone, and I was very happy to see her win because I adore that performance.
It's a great performance. That's the thing, is I think everybody agrees that it's a better performance than her previous winning performance in La La Land, which is a performance I love, but this performance, there's so much more depth to it, and frankly, the level of difficulty, singing and dancing is hard, but doing all she has to do in Poor Things, I imagine, was harder. It's tough. I feel conflicted about this one because I love Emma Stone so much as an actor. She's somebody who probably deserves 2 Oscars, and her performance is great. But Lily Gladstone. I personally preferred her performance. I know a lot of people did, and a lot of people, myself included, were excited for her potential win, for what it would mean in terms of representation and the Academy's progress. Not that Emma Stone's win detracts from those things necessarily, because she still got a nomination and is the first Native American actor to be nominated Best Actress. That's still huge, and she'll be in record books forever. But, a lot of people, myself included, were hoping we could see her pushed over that hurdle, because now it kind of feels like the board has been reset. It feels like we have to do a lot more work all over again. This is a good win that I have like an asterisk next to for personal reasons, but again, it's a great performance that won. I don't think anybody that sees Poor Things will be too sad that she won when if and when they haven't seen her performance yet.
Yeah, what I also found interesting was how well Bafta did this year in terms of like matching up with Oscar wins. I believe visual effects was the only category that didn't match up just because Poor Things wasn't nominated at the Oscars. After last year, Cody, when like almost nothing matched between BAFTA and the Oscars, the year of Everything Everywhere All at Once. This year, if you had just gone by BAFTA, you would have done very well in your final predictions, right?
Yeah, I think this is a mistake that people who follow the Oscars, myself included, make every year. They go, okay, what was last year's trend? And last year's trend was SAG and very little BAFTA crossover. And this year's trend was 3 of the 4 SAG winners won, none of whom were surprises. And everything else that was a surprise or didn't go as expected or was a tough category to call went with the BAFTA winner. So things change every year, but I think the story of the winners this year, from a prediction standpoint and what we can learn in the future, is do not underestimate the international branch of the Academy, which grows and grows with every year, because a lot of the winners, I think, are reflective of more international taste. There were a lot of non-English winners besides just international feature. Zone of Interest won 2 Oscars. 20 Days in Mariupol won Best Documentary. Godzilla won Best Visual Effects. Boy and the Heron won Animated Feature. So there was a lot of crossover from non-American, non-English language films and the Oscars.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of visual effects, okay, so I might have gotten Best Actress right, Emma Stone, and you picked Gladstone. Most people went with Gladstone, so you can't feel too bad about that, Cody, right? Like, most people, for good reason, were choosing Gladstone at the end there. But you did, Cody, get Best Visual Effects correct. I did not. I went with the creator. You went with Godzilla -1. So why did Godzilla win, ultimately, do you think?
People just like the movie more. I think it truly comes down to that. I think the creator... It is hard to look at the creator, personally speaking, and not say, wow, those are the best visual effects of the year. It just looks unbelievable. But Godzilla -1 had what was more important to voters this year, which was a story, a narrative. And it was hard not to root for the Godzilla team who were going around town with their little Godzilla statues. And again, people just liked him more. It was, I think, unquestionably the most generally well-liked film of the 5 nominees in this category.
Yeah, I decided when Godzilla -1 took visual effects, I said, okay, Brian, in the future, if there is a technical category that doesn't have a clear frontrunner and there are 2 potential winners, go with the movie people love more. That's what I've decided moving forward,
Right, if there's not a Best Picture nominee there, obviously.
If there's not a Best Picture nominee. And then, okay, so you got that one right. And then there are 4 categories we both got wrong. Let's talk about those real quick. I'm like, when they called Boy and the Heron, I was like, Cody, that's the movie you wanted to win there. It had a clear shot. Like, it was close. And I'm like, why did Cody not predict Boy and the Heron?
Because of PGA, because of Ace Eddie, the Annies, and also for my own mental health, because I wanted Boy and the Heron to win this so badly. It was the thing I wanted more than anything else from this award ceremony. And I told myself, okay, it could be Boy and the Heron, it could be Spider-Man. Knowing how the Academy votes and what their general taste is, I'm gonna go with Spider-Man, and that way if it loses and Boy and the Heron wins, I will be overjoyed and not really care that I got my prediction wrong. But if Spider-Man wins, I'll have gotten the prediction right. Happy day for me. But I just truly, the only thing I cared about at this ceremony that really had a huge impact on me was the Boy and the Heron winning. It's my favorite win of the night, and I screamed. This was my one scream I let out all night.
I'm so happy you were so excited about that. Whenever I get one wrong, I can't be excited. That's just me. I can't be like, yay! I'm like, oh.
I mean, I'm not going to pretend part of me wasn't like, Cody, you should have gone with it. Come on. But I was just mostly excited.
I told
that
you
happened.
to.
You did?
In that episode, I said, Cody, just go with Boy and the Heron. You're clearly passionate about it, and it can win. And you were like, no, Spider-Man. And then sound, Cody. Best sound went to the Zone of Interest, which I did find surprising. I thought Oppenheimer was dominating to such an extent, and it has fantastic sound work in the movie, that when people were, checking off their ballot, Oppenheimer in sound made sense to me, even though the Zone of Interest gave it a clear threat, and they went with Zone of Interest. I thought that was one of the really cool surprise wins of the night. What do we think of that?
This was easily the biggest surprise of the night, even bigger than Best Actress. I thought this could happen, but, you walk out of Oppenheimer, and it's hard not to imagine the movie about the bomb, directed by a guy who's directed movies that have won in sound categories several times, is not going to win Best Sound. And I imagine if this was still the era of mixing and editing, if there were 2 categories for sound, Zone of Interest would win mixing and probably wouldn't even be nominated in editing, and then Oppenheimer would win editing. That just kind of feels like the areas of the sound work that were being rewarded by the nominations. I think the win here for Zone of Interest is because you can't have a conversation about that movie that doesn't highly emphasize the sound. It is the whole reason the film exists and works in the way it does, similar to something like Whiplash or Sound of Metal, these movies where sound is part of the story of the film. It's a great win. I'm really happy it won. It would have gotten my vote. I'm amazed that voters were that discerning that they were able to, in the Oppenheimer sweep, distinguish Zone of Interest away from Oppenheimer's achievements and give it the award here.
Now, let's move on to costume. We both picked Barbie there, right? At the end of the day. Like,
Correct.
I think a lot of people were floating with the idea of Poor Things, and then right toward the end, I saw this a lot online, like the last 2 days, people went back to Barbie. I went back and forth for a while. I decided on Poor Things there, and then I just thought, just the colorful nature, the variety of all of those amazing costumes in Barbie, I thought, it's strong enough, it's in picture, it's in screenplay. Like, I feel like they could give it a second prize, not just song. And so I decided on Barbie at the end of the day. Why did Barbie lose this, Cody, do you think?
I think it's less that Barbie lost and more that Poor Things visually was a feast for voters' eyes. And they gave it all 3 of the, visual craft awards, makeup, hairstyling, costumes, and production design. So I think it just speaks to the overall visual appeal of the film that voters went, yes, the best looking film. I'm going to give all 3 to Poor Things. And personally, Poor Things would have gotten my personal vote in all 3 of those categories. So I'm not too upset, even if I did get this and makeup wrong. But I was mostly focused on the fact that Barbie's costumes were, again, part of the narrative of the film, part of the story of the film's appeal. And usually when a movie centers fashion or costumes or clothing, something like Phantom Thread or Cruella, it usually wins here. And that wasn't the case this year.
Right, Cruella won, so just put Emma Stone in your movie and you win your costume design. And then makeup. Why did so many of us stick with Maestro here? It was fading, like it didn't have a lot of strength going into the Oscars, and that's the one I'm really frustrated by. I should have gone with Poor Things there.
Maestro has the most makeup, which usually what gets you the win here. Yeah. And also just caking your leading performer in latex and shoving them in front of the camera, especially if they're playing a real person, is like catnip to the Oscars in this category, usually. Something like Bombshell, something like Vice, something like Darkest Hour. 2 of those, which were by the same makeup designer as this film. And I'm still kind of surprised by this one. I think it does just generally point to more Poor Things' ascension into probably runner-up status for Best Picture and just general affection and international appeal, whereas Maestro, we can say it was floundering. I mean, a lot of that is online discourse, I think, and the film still got 7 nominations, but I think by the time ballots were out, there was little excitement for that film in general. But I still thought the makeup was showy enough to overcome that.
So those are the ones we got wrong, Cody. Let's turn to like the top wins of the night. As you've talked about in these videos, Oppenheimer was your favorite film of 2023. So how are we doing when the film won Best Picture and Best Director and Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor? What was that like for you on Oscar night?
It's a funny thing because I'm not used to having the frontrunner as my choice. Most years, my favorite film of the year isn't even nominated for Best Picture, and let alone to be the frontrunner and obvious winner. It feels nice, but it feels a little anticlimactic, but obviously I'm excited because it's what I would have voted for, so... But there's always something a little bit more exciting about a surprise or something unexpected happening in any category, but especially picture.
Specific moments from the show, Cody. I'm Just Ken. What do we think of I'm Just Ken?
I was
Ryan
going to
Gosling
say,
knocked that out of the park.
Yeah, he nailed it. It was wonderfully staged. It sounded great. It was really fun to see the audience that excited, especially Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie and America Ferrera. And, it was one of those performances that it was the last song to perform, and it was right before they opened the envelope. And part of me went, oh, that's about to win. Which didn't happen. That's not how Oscar voters vote for the awards, obviously. But it undoubtedly had the best moment of the night with that performance.
I thought that too. I was like, could this win? But yeah, it's not like they're voting in the room like after the performances. So it made sense who the eventual winners were. But yeah, I do think I'm Just Ken. They went all out because this is probably the only time Ryan Gosling will ever do that. It's not like he's going on tour. So, it's like, let's just one and done. Let's make this spectacular. And they did. And then any other moments from the show, Cody, you really loved? Like outside of the wins and I'm Just Ken?
I thought in terms of presenters, John Mulaney totally nailed it. So funny. And between his apparently great job he did hosting the recent Governors Awards to having the best presentation of a presenter at this year's Oscars, I have a feeling we'll be seeing him hosting, if he wants to, before long.
Yeah. I also loved the Batman reunion, like Schwarzenegger and DeVito and Keaton together. I thought that was done really well. It was funny and kind of great. Like, I'm a huge Batman fan going back to the Burton films and things. And Messy the dog, the reaction shot with the paws, I mean, that was fantastic.
Love. And did you see the photo of the poor guy that had to lie under the seat with the fake paws?
They're going like this.
Man.
And it was pre-recorded. And so that took away some of the magic, but coming at the end of Robert Downey Jr., like getting his Oscar trophy and walking away, and we get like 5 reaction shots of like Ryan Gosling and Robert De Niro and Christopher Nolan. See the dog. Whoever thought of that was fantastic. I thought it was very fun.
Fake paws on a dog is always funny, always stupid. Loved it.
Okay, Cody, so as we kind of wrap up our conversation here, like, you know, what do you make of this whole award season? Like, are you feeling good? Or, you know, how everything played out? Like, what are our final thoughts about this award season in general?
I'm feeling pretty satisfied. Like I said, I think the winners are one of the better batches of winners we've gotten recently. Sometimes a show ends and it feels kind of like you sprinted to the finish line and you're out of breath and you don't know what to do next. I felt that way with the Coda year, which ended in such a chaotic way with a chaotic ceremony. But this year I feel mostly just satisfied. I think it's a good set of winners. The ceremony went off flawlessly. It was a good season filled with great films and great people winning awards. Even the people who I wanted to win awards didn't win at the Oscars. A lot of them won some precursors, Lily Gladstone, I would say. So overall, I think there's a lot to be happy about this year, more to be happy about than to be upset or frustrated by.
So, Cody, this is not goodbye. You're coming back, right?
If I'm allowed.
So yeah, I mean, I'm making a few more videos about the 96 Academy Awards in the days to come, but definitely in April and for a few months, I'm going to be focusing mostly on retrospective videos. And, you know, Cody, you've been a part of many of those going back the last year or so. I would love to have you come back and comment not just on this year's Oscars, but many, many Oscars from years past. Are you game? You coming back?
Always happy to just hop on a mic and talk about a movie. Anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, so that's 9 videos, Cody, between Sundance and now. What a journey this has been. It's been such a thrill. I've really enjoyed having you on the awards contender, Cody. You're just an amazing guest, and it's always a lot of fun to talk Oscars and film with you, every time.
It's been great, Brian. Thanks for being a great host, and thanks everybody out there for watching and tolerating me.
So if you can tell our viewers, Cody, where they can find you online, now would be the time.
I'm a writer and podcaster at Next Best Picture, so find all my stuff over there. And you can find me on Twitter, Letterboxd, everywhere at CodyMonster91.
Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below, what are your final thoughts about the 96 Academy Awards and this award season in general? And we'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.